you guys hear me?
We can hear you, we can't see you.
So it seems like she's having some network connection issues.
Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, maybe if I keep my camera off to see something.
Sure.
Please let me know if you all can't hear me.
And her volume is still coming in low.
You're all able to hear me, okay? I'm gonna try to speak up as much as I can. Alright, so again, just some people, let me know if you So when we're talking about signs of compassion fatigue, there are different areas where compassion fatigue can impact. We'll talk about 4 different areas that might take. So the first that is around the workplace, so somebody is in one of those areas of compassion where they're experiencing a lot of compassion fatigue. So the person will bring that into their job. So it can affect one's judgment, their thinking, their decision making, skills in critical situations. You know, we think about medical professionals, first responders, that's a very important piece. If there's some kind of impact in compassion fatigue, then that can be detrimental actually for professionals. Folks can just have an overall ineffective job performance. You might feel like you're not doing your job well, feeling like nothing that you're doing is helping, not making an impact, not making a difference. You can be low professional pride, just feeling lost that sense of pride in your work and your team. Have poor job satisfaction. So folks generally tend to go into helping professions, talking about compassion fatigue into helping because you get a sense of satisfaction out of your work. We'll talk about that going information. And then there can be some skepticism towards the public, towards the agency, the company that they currently work in. They are starting to feel burnout. And again, this doesn't have to necessarily apply to us as professionals. Any type of setting may still bring some burnout and exhaustion and mental exhaustion into our taking jobs. We can also see some signs in terms of what's cognitive tools and just kind of their reason and make decisions and planning and things like that. So we may see lack of concentration, somebody may not be as focused as they usually have been. Some common signs we see in children. They may have some intrusive thoughts. They may be so focused on caring for folks at home that now they kind of switch gears mentally into other tasks that they need to complete. They may blame themselves or others for how they're feeling. They didn't have to take care of anything at home when they go back to school. Didn't have to take care of things, helping their parents or their family. They could potentially experience dissociation, which is a little bit more significant symptom where they kind of feel detached almost from themselves. They don't feel circumstances might be out of body experience, detached. And then there might just be other maladaptive
Yeah, what was the cake?
He went into bio.
No, May.
Oh, I don't know.
I was at social services, I just did the training. You know, that we like to do them. And, the whole conversation, we had the person, we did a different.
Yeah, so I
I tried to
don't know.
get in touch with, he told me to call Russell. somebody else in the office, Russell never answered.
And Russell just came in.
Yeah, so I don't know what he said.
No. Well, yeah, because he was supposed to be in there meeting, and Charles got into a foot, so he, and I wasn't. I was asleep, now hopefully that
Oh, I
one,
make it better.
really,
Okay, I had to go.
really,
But his name is, I had a train at 9 o'clock, I really had to, he took me over and over. I've been calling him, he's not answering.
I'm wondering, Trackers was thinking that the battery closet I have worn down. Some of these,
Normally, the intimate area is a. I've been calling him, he's not answering.
I'm wondering,
And the PC does not have the same time.
right,
So we got a lot of in, but I tried to call.
It's picking up. It's picking up. This is muted. This is muted. And it's still picking up through the microphone.
Right. What are you trying to?
It's picking up the room audio.
That's gonna be how that's your settings in here.
Yeah, so I have it right here. Keep going. Everything is muted. This is killing me.
So WebEx audio has to be turned on.
Yes.
The others have to be turned off.
Yes.
He's not necessarily nervous, but he doesn't understand anything. And I'm fine. I just wanted to,
Oh, no, I agree with you. No, let me talk to you on one second. I don't know. I'll ask her just to be quiet. I'm gonna close this door. Oh, no, that was voice on one second. Hey, guys. Say again? Go right ahead. Talk about it. All right. Bye.
fatigue, it is important if we can sustain that feeling of satisfaction from caring for others, that can be very helpful to us. Practicing self-care, Edward's going to talk about that in a few minutes. Having support systems, creating a work-life balance, which is always easier said than done, but a very important piece. Using humor, knowing how to let it go sometimes, and kind of let the stress go. Acknowledging successes. So while you may be feeling very fatigued by the work that you're doing or the care that you're providing, if you can find some way to find some success or something positive in that, that can be very helpful. So these are just some thoughts in terms of creating that healthy workplace to increase satisfaction and decrease the fatigue. So I'm going to turn it over to Edward at this point, and he's going to talk a little bit more about self-care and some ways that we can help combat when we're experiencing compassion fatigue.
Thank you, Dr. Tadaro. So like we said at the beginning, my name is Edward Odom. I'm a doctoral student at University of Houston Clear Lake, currently under the supervision of Drs. Danielle Tadaro, who we just heard from, and Dr. Tanya Martin here at Fort Bend County Behavioral Health Services. So Dr. Tadaro did a wonderful job at kind of introducing basically who's susceptible to compassion fatigue and kind of what is it and what it consists of. So now what can we do to combat that? And so self-care is really, really important. I think, even without compassion fatigue, self-care is going to pretty much optimize your mental and physical health. So what I mean by self-care is, and this pie chart kind of emphasizes the equal level of importance of each of these basically components of self-care. So going to start with, social and attachment. So we saw earlier that social isolation can be, one of those, red light indicators for depression or, compassion fatigue or in other mental health conditions. So basically what we're taught in school is the first kind of line treatment for preventing depression and treating it is to basically do like a positive opposite and activate behaviors. So getting out and being social, focusing efforts on the people that we're close to, also crafting or creating a positive support circle. So people who are who bolster your self-esteem, who are good listeners, identifying people like that we can be close to. And kind of, if we need to vent, if we need to process something emotionally with somebody, having somebody that we know we can count on is very important. So physical health, I'm going to go kind of counterclockwise here. Physical health, doing things like exercising regularly, cardio 3 times a week for 30 minutes each time, eating nutritious foods, drinking plenty of water. So those are kind of some of the things that you can do to address your physical health. Doing meaningful work. I think, this presentation kind of assumes that like we are in professions that we are helping people, and there's a reason that we're in these professions because we find it meaningful. So focusing on that, but also doing meaningful work outside of our occupation, such as volunteering for a charitable organization whose mission we identify with and really support. So, Habitat for Humanity, the Houston Food Bank, feeding those without homes, things like that. Spiritual practices. So this really emphasizes kind of slowing down, taking a step back, and examining kind of what's going on with ourselves. So really for any of this to work, we have to be able to recognize within ourselves that something's going on, that we may actually be experiencing this compassion fatigue. And with the symptoms being like tendency to blame others, blame self, like it's important that we get an objective look at that so we can take positive action. So one way of kind of slowing down and really taking an examination of ourselves is practicing mindfulness. So there's a ton of mindfulness meditations on the internet. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few slides. But also other spiritual practices include, going to church, getting involved with that community if that's something that you participate in, regular prayer, things of that nature, getting out in nature even. So, getting out for a walk, going on a hike, things like that. And so really all of those kind of things contribute very much to our emotional and mental health. And it's important that we monitor our moods, monitor how we are feeling and how, we're acting towards others and ourselves. So, yeah, so emotional and mental health are very, very important too. So, gonna go to the next slide, Dr. Tadaro. Some more tips for overcoming compassion fatigue I touched on a little bit, but taking care of those basic needs. So in terms of like our hierarchy of needs, eating well, staying hydrated, sleep, exercise, we need to have all of those kind of as our foundation to kind of work on the other things too. We have to have that kind of balance. Engaging in activities to help manage stress. So, there's exercise, there's volunteering, there's, playing with your kids, but it's going to be unique to the individual. So again, this kind of emphasizes the importance of taking a step back and looking at what exactly kind of makes me tick, what causes stress that I can minimize or realistically minimize, and what helps me to minimize stress. Also, keeping daily routines as consistent as possible. This kind of gets into the biology of things. Our circadian rhythms, if they get disrupted, if we, sleep in till 3 p.m. one day and then get up at 6 a.m. the next day, we eat meals at different times. That's going to kind of, muddy the waters a little bit, and it has a direct impact on our mood. Staying connected with others. I think I touched on this before, but again, developing a healthy support system. I really can't emphasize that enough, because sometimes other people are our eyes and ears. So if something's going on within us that we don't really necessarily recognize, having a trusted other, coming and telling us, hey, I've noticed, X, Y, and Z. I'm kind of concerned about you. What's going on? That kind of thing. So taking a self-compassion break. There's some wonderful work by Dr. Kristen Neff. She has a whole website devoted to self-compassion work, basically acknowledging like, hey, I'm having a difficult time, or I need to be kind to myself in this moment. It's basically the principle, the overarching principle is to treat yourself as you would like a friend or a close loved one, and kind of, flipping that perspective back on yourself. So all of that compassion work that we've been doing and, that's been contributing to our compassion fatigue, we need to turn that inward to kind of help bolster that up so we can, practice more compassion for others. And research has shown that those who are more self-compassionate tends to bleed over into, compassion for others. Setting boundaries for yourself. I know I struggle with this one. Pretty much if somebody asks me to do something, I'm pretty much willing to do it. But again, taking a step back, looking at, schedules and things like, can I really realistically and effectively, participate in something, or, work-related duties, social obligations, things like that. And I feel like this is helpful for anybody, especially if you're really struggling with this and it's a consistent thing. There may be something deeper going on. So seeking out counseling, having a professional be able to assist you with kind of identifying these these red light areas, and maybe even crafting a whole plan for you to kind of execute to help overcome compassion fatigue or depression or whatever. Dr. Zorno, thank you. And like a useful tool for, I know I need constant reminders to kind of take care of myself because I'm just kind of on go, go, go all the time. But there is a useful tool that you can find on this compassionfatigue.org website. That is, it's just a little card, and it kind of emphasizes all of those self-care activities that I just talked about. So getting enough sleep, getting enough to eat, vary the work that you do, light exercise, do something pleasurable or something, something that you feel a sense of mastery upon completion, working on hobbies and things like that. Focusing on what you did well as opposed to focusing on the mistakes that you've made. Learning from those mistakes. Again, emphasizing the humor and meditation and relaxation and supporting a colleague. So this is something that you can print out and just plaster all over everywhere, so you can kind of remind yourself to say, hey, I need to take care of me too. Like, I'm taking care of everybody else, but I kind of need, you can't really pour from an empty cup. So focusing your empathy, this is another really useful strategy, and it really emphasizes kind of having two modes in your life. So when you come to work, we turn on work mode and kind of compartmentalize those other areas of our life that may be contributing to our stress, but focusing our empathy is kind of being able to focus on the job at hand. So turning that on when you come to work, turning it off at the end of the day, so as to not take that kind of stuff home with you. And it takes it adds some specific tips. So make it a conscious process. Talk to yourself as you do it. I'm switching on to work mode. Say that to yourself. Use images that make you feel safe and protected when doing so. So, visualize, you're this helping person, you visualize your clients and visualize helping them. Whereas, turning to off work mode or non-work mode, visualize your family, your friends, your dog, whatever it helps you kind of feel more safe and secure in whatever mode that you're in. Developing rituals, anything to kind of signify, I'm doing this, like developing any kind of ritual that can help you switch from start and stop work. And so, and then breathing slowly and deeply to calm yourself when doing a tough job. So these are all really helpful strategies to kind of focus your empathy. And again, if we don't, let me speak for myself. If I don't participate in these self-care activities, I will be pouring eventually from an empty cup. And that will definitely impact my ability to be the most effective therapist or evaluator that I can be. And then it will impact the level of satisfaction I get from being a compassionate provider. So this compassion satisfaction is an internal feeling of increased motivation and satisfaction derived from helping those who suffer. And I think anybody who probably works in the helping profession can know what this kind of compassion satisfaction feels like. I know that I feel very invigorated and just ready to help everybody at some, whenever I'm feeling this kind of this particular satisfaction. And it's a source of internal strength, and it can offset the burnout that we've emphasized here. Next slide. So we are going to do a mindfulness exercise now. So it's you can find this on YouTube. So this is going to kind of help us. So mindfulness is defined as paying attention on purpose without judgment. So kind of taking that step back that I talked about and looking at how we're feeling, what we're thinking, without that layer of judgment. Can't hear the video, Dr. Tadaro.
I'm going to unmute myself and see if that helps to hear it.
Have you been feeling anxious lately? If so, I have something for you. My name is Dr. Christiane Wolf from Inside LA, and this is a short mindfulness practice. So mindfulness teaches us that we are actually always in the present moment. The body is in the present moment, the mind is not. So where's the mind? The mind is either in the past, rehashing, or in the future, rehearsing. Right now, it's a lot in the future, and that makes us anxious right now. It makes the body anxious right now. So let's practice with that. So I'm inviting you to finding a comfortable posture. You are, where you are. Closing your eyes for a moment, if that feels okay. Just feeling your feet on the ground. Feeling how the chair supports you, or if you're standing, how you're just supported in that posture. And then feeling the breath. So noticing where you feel your breath. Breath a little bit longer and deeper. Way in, way out. If you like, you can emphasize the exhalation just a little bit more. And if you notice that the attention runs away into the future, just bring it back to right now, here. If you're feeling anxious, just seeing if you can allow this for right now, just right now for this moment, noticing where you feel it, maybe in the chest or the belly. And then using the breath, imagining you can breathe into this anxiety, into these sensations of anxiety, breathing some space around. Allowing this to be here as best as you can, holding it with kindness. And then asking yourself, am I okay right now? If I don't let myself run into the future, if I'm really here in this moment, am I okay right now? And the answer almost always is yes, you are. So here you are. Thank you.
Okey-doke. So now we are just going to go over a few resources. So mindfulness resources. I did neglect to say that a key piece of mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment, and kind of using that breath as like an anchor to the present moment when our mind kind of starts to wander a little bit. So here's some websites: mindful.org, headspace.com. They actually have an app that you can use, and it has a ton of free meditations. You can also pay for extra stuff. John Kabat-Zinn, he's kind of like the MVP in terms of mindfulness. He really pioneered the mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy. So anything that he does on YouTube is going to be kind of like, that's a stamp of approval. Meditation apps, some other ones are Insight Timer, Smiling Mind, Stop, Breathe, and Think, UCLA Mindful, I'm blanking on any other ones, but I've definitely used those apps and they're very helpful. Again, and here's the Compassion Fatigue Awareness Project. It goes really in depth as to what compassion fatigue is, you know, what it kind of stems from sometimes, and how it's kind of in the family of trauma and stressor related disorders, although it's not itself an actual disorder. Here's some other resources. So Deer Oaks Employee Assistance Program, Texans Recovering Together, that was made for, it's a resource for people who are, you know, who are struggling with like disasters such as COVID and hurricanes. Here's actually our website, Fort Bend County Behavioral Health Services, and several more. These are wonderful resources in case, you know, you're going through a crisis. So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, NAMI has a lot of, it's the National Association on Mental Illness. They have a lot of resources on their website to kind of connect you with any kind of mental health treatment that you may need. So Dr. Tadaro, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I would just say that if you, kind of like Edward already mentioned, you know, if you have listened to this presentation and, you know, see some signs that get you thinking, okay, maybe I'm experiencing some compassion fatigue, or a loved one is experiencing some compassion fatigue, you know, the self-care tips and tricks that Edward talked about really can help. Sometimes it seems like it's, you know, common sense, but when we really stop and look at it, most of us, including mental health professionals, are not great about taking care of ourselves. And as Edward mentioned, we really can't be effective in caring for others, whether it's in our jobs or in our personal lives, if we're not taking care of ourselves. And I think it's equally as important to reach out to those around us that we see, whether it's coworker, friend, loved one, if we see that they seem to be struggling. And I know sometimes people feel a little uncomfortable maybe about talking about mental health with somebody in their life. But I think if you approach a discussion from, hey, you know, are you doing anything to take care of yourself? And taking it from a self-care perspective, you may find out that those in your lives that you're concerned about are not doing anything, any of those even very basic things to take care of themselves. So it's a really great place to start a discussion. And then, of course, you know, if there are concerns beyond that, again, like Edward mentioned, you know, making sure that you're reaching out to some of the resources on here. Behavioral health services is always available to, you know, connect folks to resources in their community or specific resources if you're needing something. You know, we didn't talk much about kids and young people here, but you know, we're able to connect folks to any resources that we think might be beneficial if you are struggling. These are tough times, and even though we're hopefully moving, you know, towards the tail end of the pandemic, I know our presentation on Monday is going to be talking about fears and anxieties about that process specifically. And I know, you know, things are changing every day in terms of the pandemic, and, you know, things for work, school, our kids. So this is a constant state of kind of flux that we're having to manage. And so maybe we made it through the pandemic okay, but then post-pandemic, we are starting to feel a little bit of that burnout, or things are catching up to us. So we just want to make sure that folks are mindful of that and aware of that, and can reach out to behavioral health services if they need some assistance getting connected. So that's all we have. I don't know if there's any questions coming through on the chat, or if Dr. Almeida has anything else she wants to add. I apologize for the technical issues on my end. I don't know what was going on, so I'm sorry for that. Hopefully folks could hear everything okay. So Dr. Almeida, I don't know if you had anything else or if there were questions to be addressed.
No, thank you. We can blame it on the weather, all the technical issues. So, I mean, I had loss of power and water, and I know you did too. So, that could definitely be contributing to this. So I think there are several really important things that, you both discussed, and sometimes in Dr. Tadar, you alluded to this, sometimes we use all these technical terms, hypervigilance and all this, and it's kind of like, but you talked about it, this feeling like you're on edge, how we lose perspective of things. So things that normally, we can react to, all of a sudden they have such an exaggerated impact. I mean, it really, we lose perspective, whether that's because we are more hypervigilant, just because we're more tired, because of this compounded stress. And with that, it's like this overreacting. And I think we have to be really aware of that we're overreacting to things, either in the workplace, personal life, that normally we would be able to manage. Uh, so kind of on edge, losing perspective, overreacting. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is like this self-care. We use that term a lot. Something that we've realized during this pandemic is that self-care requires more energy and more of an intentional focus. So it's like, on top of everything else, we have to put more effort into self-care. And that's something that, a lot of colleagues and, just in talking to others, it's like, oh, we really have to make this a priority. And I think we also have to have some kindness with ourselves and not being so hard and judgmental about ourselves that, maybe we're not exercising every day. Maybe all we can do is 5 minutes a day. Again, recognizing that in part because of what we've all experienced, most things take a lot more effort, including self-care. So I really just wanted to bring those things and maybe, a little bit, just really reemphasize that again, which both of you talked about. And Dr. Tadar, you alluded to this in terms of, getting back to this normalcy. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, we're very fortunate, things, and especially in Fort Bend County, things are looking pretty good. Yet why are we feeling this exhaustion, or why are we still feeling some of this anxiety? We have to recognize and remember that often the impact of a traumatic event is not seen right away, but actually seen 6 months, a year later. So again, maybe we were actually better able to cope with things when we were in that crisis mode of having to take care of things. We're all very good at that, responding. And maybe we could actually be feeling some of that PTSD, or just whatever that looks like for you. But, trying to understand better what you're going through, and in putting it in perspective, building those coping strategies that have worked for you in the past, coming up with new ones, and again, recognizing that there's been a lot of anxiety, there's been a lot of unknowns, and, if you need to seek professional help, to talk to somebody, do it. There's resources out there. That's the only other thing I wanted to mention is, as Dr. Tadara mentioned, referenced, we're available to, you can call our offices, and we can provide just, some resources, link you to services. But also, if you want us to come out and talk to your organization or department within or without or outside of the county about compassion fatigue, we're also willing to do that, and try to work out some schedules where we could do that for you. So we're here to assist, and I think that's all that I have. These are great resources. Please use them, and that's all that I have. I don't see any questions. I don't know if there's anything coming in from Facebook.
Dr. Almeida, there was one question that I see on the chat. It says,
Okay.
how do you know if you are burned out and just keep going?
So how do you, well, do you want me to answer that? You want to try to answer that?
I will say, I think in terms of burnout, obviously that's what, compassion fatigue and can be described as. It's a sense of burnout. And, going back to some of those signs that we talked about earlier, if you're starting to experience, those emotional signs, behavioral and physical signs, thinking changes in your thinking, if the burnout is specifically related to, being in a helping profession, your workplace, or if it's related to being burned out from duties in your personal life, if it's impacting your functioning in any kind of way, right? It's impacting your ability to get your work done like you used to. It's impacting your ability to manage, things in your home or in your personal life like you used to be able to. If it's interfering with that in any way, that could definitely be a sign that there's burnout, right? That the culmination of all of these things, right, and all of these things that you're feeling and experiencing are now impacting your day-to-day life. That could be, at least from my perspective, I think, a sign of burnout. And I mean, some people keep going through the burnout. However, you may be putting yourself at risk for then really crashing, really being unable to manage those things in your life, potentially, having things escalate further into more concerning mental health conditions. So if you think that that's where you're going, then the recommendation would be, let's try to intervene and implement any of those kind of self-care things that we talked about, even if it's one thing, right? Even if it's just connecting with a friend and having, a FaceTime conversation, or going out to the park or something like that. It doesn't have to be this large shift like Dr. Almeida was talking about, where we are thinking now we're causing more stress just thinking about what we have to do to relieve our stress. But if it's one or two changes, things that we can, introduce into our day,
Yeah.
they could be extraordinarily helpful in kind of curbing some of that burnout.
Now, I just wanted to add to that, because I think we talked about this briefly in one of the other seminars. Maybe it was the tips for parents. These mini escapes, because as you mentioned, sometimes like, okay, planning a vacation or planning something else, or a major event that not only, takes a lot of time, but it takes a lot of planning and coordination and cost, can add to more stress, especially during this pandemic. So these mini escapes, whatever that is for you, it could be a 5-minute, 10-minute escape, or it could be a day off. In Fort Bend County, we encourage mental health days. We recognize that those are really important. So, one of the things is, like, if you are experiencing that burnout, trying those mini escapes and see if that helps you feel better. I mean, and the things about feeling better, it's like, well, think about it. Do you sleep better? Are you less reactive? Are you less anxious? Are you having less physical problems? Are you less tired? Yeah. I mean, that's how, some of those symptoms of that burnout often look like. So, sleep is important. Being able to get enough sleep and really turn your mind off and being able to rest is really a critical thing. So, Edward, did you want to add anything?
I think, yeah, just a little bit because it can be kind of a gradual process. It's not like you're gonna be like, oh, I'm a little bit more burnout today. I'm a little bit more burnout today. It really is gradual, and I think that's a really important question to ask. And I think, I mean, I can't really, I know I keep bringing this up, but I can't really stress enough the importance of mindfulness and being able to take a step back and kind of get that perspective. I was gonna say mental health days are amazing. I've definitely utilized that. That work-life balance. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done, and I'm not trying to undermine that or discount that. But also the importance of social supports, people who can say, "Hey, I see this in you." A lot of times that's what it takes for me. Somebody like, "Hey, something's going on," and then after I'm done being defensive, I'll take a, I'll take a look in and look inside and be like, oh yeah, I'm actually doing, X, Y, and Z. I've been super on edge. I'm easily startled. That's a good red light indicator of that physiological hypervigilance that's so prevalent in compassion fatigue. So that's really kind of all I wanted to say about it. I just wanted to emphasize the mindfulness stuff, like 10 minutes a day every day can really make a difference, and actually incorporating that into that routine that we talked about, or that I talked about with that's so important to kind of keep that balance. So that's all I've got about it.
Thank you. So with that, it's almost 1:00, and we thank everyone for joining us. And again, thank you, Edward and Dr. Tadaro. And again, this will be posted on the websites and available for later viewing. Please share with others. Please share the link. And there's some great resources out there and in this presentation. And we're here to support you in any way that we can. Thank you, and take care of yourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.